see. And if my audio starts breaking up at any point, please let me know. And then for simplicity, for those who want to share with their friends, um, you can share if they can't log into the Zoom. I'll just have the part of me teaching. I'll have the part of me teaching on what do you call it, on Zoom, and then once I'm done teaching, I'll turn it off and we'll just have a discussion. I also have it playing on the with the link in the background. Okay, excellent. Well, please just share your name, where you're calling from, and where you're logged in from, and then let me give a little bit of background. I'll share my whiteboard as well. So please, if at any point the call's breaking up or anything, please let me know, and then I'll be able to pause. So let me start by saying the tutor training program or the county to calculus program is part of my vision for transformation in Africa. So it's part of my vision for transformation in Africa. And what I mean by that is I want to see every young person in Africa who is good at mathematics. I want them to be able to tap into this opportunity to help people from around the world to learn mathematics. So let me share a link in the chat, and based on you have to click on the link and ask for access, and I'll give you access right away. But this link is going to give you access to all the different, let's call it documents that I'm referring to right now. So this is called Tutor Training Documents, and there's 4 resources there for now. I'll add more later. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us on a journey. So let me just share the link. So inside this folder are documents that we'll be going back and forth on. So let me go here. And so if you look in the chat, here's the link. My people in Kenya, God willing, Kenya is like on my mind these days. And we have to get to Kenya. Zimbabwe, I know we have a few people from Zimbabwe, but I have not I need to follow more closely what's happening in Zimbabwe and see how we can come in as well. One of the things I find interesting about Zimbabwe, I don't know if everybody on this call knows, but Zimbabwe actually, when they come to America, a lot of them who come here, they have a lot of education. So I say I want to understand what's happening in Zimbabwe too. Your school system, there's something very good going on with some of the schools. And then, of course, I grew up in Nigeria. So, anyways, by God's grace, my goal is how can we take Africa forward together? How can we provide opportunities for as many people as possible using mathematics to double the GDP of Africa? That's one of my goals. Let's start exporting mathematics. So here's my first document. I'm going to just share now. You guys will see my screen. I've shared this link that I was talking about, and I'm going to go to resource number 1. What is resource number 1? Tools for mastering mathematics. Can everybody see my screen? Okay, sorry, let me make sure. Um, okay, sorry, can everybody see the tools for mastering mathematics here? So I'm going to start right here. This is the beginning of the journey. Why did Amos write this book with Nathan? Nathan and I still do some work together once in a while. His degrees are in mathematics, physics, statistics. He did part of his master's in statistics, and then he's finishing his another master's right now in industrial engineering. I got my degrees in chemistry, medical physics. I completed a year of a PhD in chemistry, physical chemistry, and then also did some work in STEM education. I have 2 master's degrees in physics, medical physics, and medical health physics. My dream and goal in life, God willing, and you guys can also, maybe if you want, you can either email it to me or you can share. But my goal is how can I ensure And actually, give me 1 second. I'm going to share the folder that I just shared with all of you. I'm going to make it something that anybody can access for during the duration of this meeting. So I'm going to say anyone with access for duration as a viewer. Perfect. Okay. So if it didn't allow you before, please give it a try now. Okay, back to resource one. So who is Amos? Amos is a medical physicist whose goal in life is to try and help as many people as possible to love mathematics, and he wants to see STEM centers across the world. This will be faith-based, Christian STEM, classical education, but it's STEM combined. And what he's trying to do, and I know I'm talking in third person, sorry. English teachers, don't be angry, please. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to establish a, think of it as an Isaac Newton Academy, for lack of a better name. But well, there's better name. Maxwell, James Clerk Maxwell Faraday Institute of Technology, that kind of school. So my goal in life is, how can we create the type of institutions that gave rise to the best mathematicians in the world? And I want to make it so normal that no matter what country you are in, Zimbabwe or Kenya, Botswana or Namibia, doesn't matter. You can go to one of these places. So they will end up becoming like homeschool centers where people can go and learn. So that's part of my goal in life. I want to democratize high quality STEM education in the sense that everybody in every country has access to them. So the tutor training program is talking about how can we provide and scale up high quality maths tutoring around the world. So part of my assignment is to basically provide. Let me make sure. Actually, if it's okay, I'm going to give somebody in case somebody else can do the admitting of people. Sorry, let me transfer over. So if you don't mind, if you can help us admit people. If not, you can pass it on to Sunday. But let's so that we can keep the conversation going. Okay, so yeah, please feel free to again share your name, where you're logging in from. But let me just finish explaining the heart behind this. Why are we doing this? We're doing this because there is a shortage of excellence in mathematics around the world. And by God's grace, we're going to solve it. Now, how can Amos say he wants to solve it? This is serious. How long has Amos spent time on this kind of topic? Well, when I was in primary 3 at Air Force Primary School, Victoria Island, Lagos, I actually used to make math problems for my classmates, or at least math examples, whether it was just for me or for other people. And the idea was, can we help as many people as possible? Hello. Can we help as many people as possible to master mathematics? I was in primary 3. This was 1997. I don't know if you guys see part of where my wahala started in a good way, not a bad wahala. But my heart seems to be drawn to the patterns in mathematics, and I always wanted to help people learn and teach. This is the first part of why we're doing this. So let me just share this first part with everybody. What worries, what concerns you? What problem do you want to solve? And how can we think creatively to solve those problems? I was reading the other day. You remember last Saturday, I was telling us, and I promise we're going to start now, but I just wanted to tell you, why are we even here, right? Sometimes you have to answer the question of why before you go deep. So let me take 1 more minute, please, to just say why we're here. I was reading the other day, I told you guys about the export problem and how, we African countries are not listed in the top 10 for exports, or like top 30. And do you know that just recently I read again that 50% of the GDP of Africa comes from only about 8 countries in Africa? And I said, what can we do that will uplift millions of people in Africa out of poverty and give them opportunities to provide for their communities? And I think it comes back to this tutoring thing again. What if Amos goes and find students, him and other people. Let's find students from the UK, from America, everywhere, and let's convince them, because it's true. Let's persuade them in love. And around the world, let's remind every student in every country, you can actually master mathematics. That is true. But the problem is that our teacher training institutes do not train teachers ultimately to have that framework. So we need to solve this problem by finding another alternative to inspire students to love mathematics. And then we need as many teachers and tutors as possible to support those children along the way. This is called blue ocean strategy. This is called a blue ocean strategy because you are creating new markets. I'm not even talking about trying to get people who already have tutors to switch who's tutoring them, which is fine if they want to do that. That's not the point. The point is there are billions of people in the world today who think they cannot do maths, or that maths is hard, or that maths is not beautiful. We have to redeem mathematics. So that's part of what this is about. So Tools for Mastering Mathematics is part of my heart cry, and it's the first resource I'm sharing with us. Let's go on to the meat of the book. I'm going to give you a quote from the book. Now the book is in the folder that I've shared in the chat. Let's now pause with this. Let me give you the quote that I want us to digest, and then we'll start doing math problems. So here's the quote. Tell me what you think of when you think of this quote. Actually, first of all, tell me when you think this quote was written. Some of you might have already seen it. Don't cheat. Just try and see. Let me read the quote out. What students need fundamentally in academics today is not information. They need inspiration and vision. They can get information from the library as well as Google. Once they are inspired and hardworking, the technology and coaching or teaching available will help them excel in whatever they choose to study. With the technology and tools available, teachers can help students master concepts in mathematics like never before. We need to constantly seek ways to get them to care about excelling. Teachers can provide students with the tools they need to have a vision and the necessary inspiration. Everybody on this call, if you don't mind, go ahead and put in the chat. When do you think this was written, realistically? What year do you think? Just take a guess. What year do you think this was written? Let me just take 1 second. Let's put it in the chat. What year was Amos saying that if students have access to the resources and teachers can use? What year are we saying? While you do that, I'm just going to get ready with our first math problem. So I'm going to before I get that first math problem, let me get a link. And then I'm just going to put in the chat link to resources. And okay, I put it there. So very good. Now we're going to dive into math problems, which is resource number 1. Okay, what year? Let me see what people put for the year. 2013. Okay, 2013. Okay. Welcome everybody again. I see the more people have typed in there. The answer to the question is yes, it is close to 2013. It was 2014. Why does this matter? Because here's why this matters. I was saying all that stuff before the technology became available that we're talking about today, called one of the tools we have. The cultural difference. So there's a cultural difference and appreciation for mathematics and education that is different from what you might know from Zimbabwe or Nigeria, right? So, for example, sorry, I apologize. 1 second. Okay, so if you think about Zimbabwe or Kenya or Nigeria, right? Just use those examples, or Ghana for a second. Parents are telling their children, and this is generally the case in many cases where children go to a certain school. They might be doing okay academically, but they have extra lessons even after school. The parents are like, you have to go to school, you have to do well, because our pathway to the future for you is through education. Now, in some of those countries, you can't just go to university straight after graduating. So then what happens is you have to wait, and life is hard. So everybody's focused on, how do I give you the best education? Now compare that to a country like, this is very different even from the UK. Let's talk about America for a second. In America, every child, if they want, has access to some form of higher education when they graduate secondary school. Every single child. Every child. No questions. Because we have community colleges, we have some state colleges, we have some private schools that have a high acceptance rate. We have so many options. So now let's talk about the attitude that students will have to learn in such an environment versus an environment where if you fail, you are in trouble. Because this is going to lead me to a very important point about Singapore math that I just found out about 3 weeks ago. So you are going to be working with students who are in a situation where if they fail, they're still okay. It's very different from a situation like in Nigeria. If you fail your WAEC or JAM, you might be in trouble, which, by the way, we need to outlaw ban JAM as soon as possible. I'm not even joking or smiling on that. JAM it needs to be done. There's no reason that exam needs to exist at this point. I remember taking that exam in 2004, 2005. What do we do to children? Let me sit you down for how many hours after you travel far to take an exam in English, and I took chemistry, physics, and biology. Amos, don't be angry. Okay, sorry, let me calm down. But my point is, these people go to take JAM, and then you score whatever score, and then the university might give you this and that, and the next you have to take it again. No, this is not fair to children. So you guys are beginning to see my heart cry. We need to redeem education. So welcome to the call. I want us to upskill everybody in mathematics education. And then by God's grace, I want us to have 1 million students in our STEM Academy over the next 5 years, God willing. So you guys are beginning to see the vision. The vision is Amos and his team need to make sure we have enough students that tutors can then work with, and we grow it so that African educators and educators around the world who want to provide tutoring services have access to a place they can provide the services in. And now we begin to double or move the GDP needle quick. That's part of what I'm trying to do. I want to use math education to expand the GDP of Africa's offering. Okay. So in the book Tools for Master Mathematics, I talk about the topics everybody needs to learn before calculus. What are the topics everybody must learn before calculus? Well, here are a few topics I want to explain. So in the difference between tools for our method in counting to calculus and what might be generally used in many schools is that we are telling every child, you are going to do calculus, and we don't even want to hear any excuse. Like, there is no excuse. You are doing calculus. The question now is, how do we get you there effectively? Number one, we start with arithmetic. So in Tools for Master Mathematics, so everybody on this call, I just want to give you a recap of everything in this program. Number one is arithmetic. That means that all the tutors in the Counting to Calculus program, even if they teach calculus, they should know some nuggets for arithmetic, because believe it or not, sometimes you are teaching a student and you have to rewind and go back to some basic fraction operations because the child has forgotten. Have any tutors experienced this before, where you are teaching a child a topic, but you find out that they have gaps from the past? So what we are trying to do then with our program is all our tutors will be the only educators in the world that can go from teaching somebody how to add numbers to calculus 1 and back and forth. So we are doing that intentionally because Leonard Euler, that's one of the reasons, one of the greatest mathematicians in the world, that was what he did when he wrote his book, Elements of Algebra. So everybody, Elements of Algebra. I have a few more resources for everybody on this call. So please email me at amosthemathguy@gmail.com. So I give you the updated link to all the resources that I'll be sharing about. Leonard Euler is one of the greatest mathematicians to ever live. Why is this important? This is important because how can you teach a student a subject without telling them the greatest in the subject first? Shouldn't our goal be how can we help children reach their fullest potential? If the answer is yes, we want to help them reach their fullest potential, then we should probably encourage the children to know who the greatest are in that subject. This leads me to our first tool that is available to everybody on this call, our diagnostic tool. Can somebody please give me we'll do secretary duties later. Can somebody please write down these things that I need to pass on to everybody? So one of them is the diagnostic test. I need to give the tutors the diagnostic test. Now, if you want to teach, it would make sense that you know what your students are going to learn and what they need to be tested, what they will be tested on right away. So I want to encourage you to try the diagnostic test. Don't worry, I promise, I will not judge you if you are just trying to review your maths.
Just use it as a way to see what topics the children are going to encounter. And then if you score, let's say 90%, and you feel like, Kai, I should be scoring 100%, then take the test again now. And it should tell you what topic you need help with or what topic you missed. No problem, no problem. In this academy, we believe that people just keep getting better and better in the things they practice. So don't feel bad if you don't score 100% the first time. You might make a mistake. So that's fine. But this is the very first test that most of our students who are 10, 11, or 12 will take. So I think it makes sense for us to also take it. So we have the mathematics diagnostic 1, we have the mathematics diagnostic 2, and we have the mathematics diagnostic 3. There are 3 levels to going from arithmetic to calculus. And when I say that there are 3 levels, let me explain what I mean, because this will help you understand what Amos is trying to say. So in this first book, Tools for Mastering Mathematics, this section, which you guys have access to, it talks about how teachers can inspire their students and how to help students become good at maths. But let's scroll down. In the second part of the book, I give Nathan and I give everybody, and by the way, I'll be inviting Nathan to come on this call as well. So you guys will get to meet my co-author and some of my other authors that I'm writing some books with. But so basically, Tools for Mastering Mathematics, the second part focuses on, in Nigeria, we call it a 4-figure table. The idea is like a 4-figure table where you have all the topics children should learn and have in their back pocket any given day. Any given day, if we ask a student, do you know what the properties of real numbers are? They should be able to say, yes, I do. Do you know what the divisibility rules are? They should be able to say yes. Do you know what the properties of radicals are? They should say yes. They need to know, we call them swords in Nigeria, properties of swords. But the point is, every student should have these topics readily available because it will help them do mathematics more effectively. But just recently, I was teaching a student who is supposed to be graduating from secondary school next year, but they couldn't simplify fractions efficiently. That reminded me of the importance of this project. Some students are almost about to graduate secondary school and they're not comfortable with fractions. We have to start thinking of mathematics holistically. So I provide students with all the topics they need to have in their back pocket. But what I want to show you is the third part. This is the beginning of counting to calculus in the third part. Sorry, I'm just scrolling down fast to get to the third part. And you guys will see what this is, what the big picture is about. Okay, now we have the third part. In the third part, we have an inventory with a list of topics and themes in mathematics. Inventory with a list of topics and themes in mathematics. This is the big category of the topics. What you are looking at right now is what students will encounter from the age of 6 to the age of 18 in mathematics in one list. So the reason why I did this, and actually I was thinking about this recently, if anybody wants to join my curriculum building team, I need some help on the curriculum building side. Not just tutoring, but actually building curriculum. Because I'm writing some curriculum for some schools in Nigeria, and it would be nice to have more people that are helping to double check and also writing some of the sections. So if you want to join the curriculum building team, please just send amosthemathguy@gmail.com and just say curriculum building team, and then feel free to share a little bit about your goals. What we are going to do by God's grace is it's going to take some time for this to happen. At the end of the day, I want private schools to all rethink what they are doing in math education across the continent and around the world. But in the meantime, we're going to give counting to calculus as an enrichment program for schools across the world. And in that quest of doing that, we need people to help package the curriculum. We have somebody who's going to help with the printing of the curriculum, and then we'll have distribution of the curriculum. So imagine every school having a center in their school or a corner called Counting to Calculus Center. And the Counting to Calculus Center allows the school to be able to tell a child who is struggling in math, go and read those Counting to Calculus materials. Because what will happen is that those children will start becoming very good at math very fast, because they're going back and fixing the gaps in their math education. So let me land with this, and then I promise we'll do a couple of practice problems, and then we'll stop and take questions. So in 2011, so I came to the US in 2007. I got my degree in chemistry and a minor in philosophy. I was going to become a medical doctor, so it was chemistry pre-med. I wanted to be a medical doctor because I wanted to inspire students to love, to flourish in life. That was my goal, inspire students to flourish in life. And so when I came to the US, I was meeting with a friend of mine from church, and he made a comment. My friend from church made a comment that was very interesting. He said to me, Amos, you want to be a doctor. I was teaching Sunday school at this time at this church as well to secondary school students. He said, Amos, if you want to be a doctor in America, I hope you understand that you only have a few minutes with your patients and there's just not enough time to start trying to inspire them and talk about this, and that. In America, when you go to a doctor's appointment, you usually get in about 10, 15 minutes. I know this is going to sound strange to people living in the UK, Canada, and so on. In some of these countries, you guys might have a long wait before you get into different procedures. No, in America, if you want to see a doctor, you can see a doctor, very quick. We have different opportunities, right? Again, America is ultra capitalistic, extreme. And so we have a lot of opportunities, a lot of competition. So hospitals are trying to make sure that they're not keeping people waiting long. So imagine you go to the doctor's office. You want to see the doctor. Do you know that once you enter the doctor's office itself, like once you are meeting with your doctor, you only have about 10 to 15 minutes, and that is over. Why is this important? Because what my friend told me that day, it stuck with me, I think, in some ways. Sometimes you make decisions in life and you might not even realize that some of it was made by other people telling you things. But what my friend told me that day basically made me realize that if I want to inspire children to reach their fullest potential, becoming a medical doctor was not my best option. I wanted to be a doctor because of Ben Carson and how he inspired me. But what ended up happening is that I realized, you know what, maybe there's another way. But then I had another encounter that confirmed to me that I should not become a medical doctor. And the thing that happened to me, well, first of all, why did I want to be a medical doctor? Well, part of it had to do with prestige, right? I wanted to be a doctor. And then some of my friends also wanted to be doctors and all of that. So the first lesson I want to give everyone on this call is you only have one life to live. You only have one life to live. Don't live it for somebody else. Don't become something because somebody has told you you can't do it and you are trying to prove them wrong. Don't become something because someone else has told you you can't do it, so you want to prove them wrong. Only do that thing if you believe God has wired you to do it, you have a passion for it, it makes sense, and it can support your family or your community. Then you think to do it. Not because of but if I have this title in front of my name. Do you know that AI is already outperforming doctors in diagnosis in many scenarios? Of course, AI plus doctor is better. But my point is, the way we are moving now, many doctors will start having crisis of why am I doing what I'm doing? If many people are just going to use some of these tools that are being built and made to be so powerful for diagnosing disease. When somebody gets a CT scan now, the AI can read the scan before the radiologist, and the radiologist just needs to double check some things and send it off and confirm that it's done. My point is, if I wanted to become a doctor just for prestige, what happens when machines are coming and doing some of my work? Right? And I'm not saying we're not going to need doctors. We are going to need doctors, but how medicine is going to happen is going to be very different. And many other things. So the point I'm trying to make is I wanted to be a doctor for a certain reason. And one thing confirmed that I should not do it. And that was when I was in my philosophy class. I took philosophy because I wanted to, I heard that the teacher was teaching certain things that I, thought I've never heard anyone teach these things. And I want to share that, I'm a Christian and I want to have a good discussion with this professor. So I met with him one day while he was just sitting down in the student center. And I told him who I was and what I wanted to do. And the professor told me to take his philosophy class. So I did. My friends, that was the end of my medical career. When I took philosophy, I began to realize that there's so many things in science that we take for granted. I began to realize the philosophy of science was very important. I began to realize that I wanted to focus on the mind and inspiring people. So that's how this man that left Nigeria to become a doctor left the medicine track and moved into the academic track. And it's a very rare combination because many of us who come to America end up becoming doctors, engineers, lawyers, business people, and so on. But I ended up teaching in a traditional school for 2 years, a private school. So I came to America, I got my bachelor's degree, I stopped the medical school track, and then I started at the private school. And during this time of teaching at the private school, I realized the problem I call the American math problem. And the American math problem is that we teach a lot of these topics over and over again, but students are not mastering these topics. Why are students in 10th grade or SS1, we call it in America, or in Nigeria, or people who are 14 or 15, how come they cannot add fractions? Because they've not mastered prime factorization and the lowest common multiple. So sometimes the reason why a student is struggling in the present is because of the past. So I decided in the summer of 2022, my wife and I were expecting our first child at the time. We have 7 children now, we thank God. But my wife and I were expecting our first child at the time. And what I realized was many people were doing mathematics and repeating topics, but they were not mastering the topics. So guess what Amos decided to do? I will find every textbook from every school, from any place that I can find, from every grade level, and I will write down all the topics from the most basic topics to the most advanced topics, and I'll put it into one document. And my friends, this is the document that you are looking at right now. This is the official list of every single topic from first grade all the way to calculus, broken down the best we can in many cases by subdivision. Some of these could probably be subdivided even further. But I took the time and I kept working on this. And by the end of about 2012, the summer, this list was pretty clear. By 2013, I started talking more about it. By 2014, I published Tools for Mastering Mathematics. As you can see, the list is quite long, but the good news is that the list exists. Why is this important? Because anybody anywhere in the world can take this list and now study mathematics from the most basic topics to the most advanced. So that's the beginning of counting to calculus, was this list essentially. So imagine and this list, the funny thing is, this list applies to you even if you are not in America. Doesn't matter what country of the world you are in. You take that list and you can use it to help any student become the best they can be in mathematics. This week, I then took that list and I made it into a more colorful brochure using Claude, right? I took the same list I used about 12 years ago and I gave it to Claude to put color in and make it more, because look at the other one you're looking at. It was just bland. Now it has added color. So this leads me to one of the lessons for the tutors on this call. If you don't know how to use AI, the starting point I would say is to get an account with Claude, Claude, get an account with Gemini if you don't have one, and get an account with Perplexity. I have a newsletter I can send out. Remind me, team, please, to send it out to people. In my newsletter, number 1, I talk about the major players in that every educator or anybody can use. And so I'll send you the newsletter. Just click on it. You can download and start using some of these applications. But as you can see, Claude was able to add my brand colors of gold, royal blue, orange, and white. See, now I have this tool, but I still have some graphic designers. My graphic designers, I still need you, please. I'm just saying this was just a quick spin-off to help me share with others. So what are the key topics everybody needs to learn? Here are the 16 topics. Let's run down the list. Number 1, we need our students to learn prime factorization. We need our students to learn prime factorization, the fundamentals of arithmetic and number theory. Again, this is my list condensed to 16. You need every student to know how to prime factorize a number like 28 or 36 or 72. They should be doing it in their sleep. If a student does not know how to prime factorize, they will not be able to do fractions with confidence. Number 2, students need to learn fractions, decimals, and percents with confidence. If students are going to get to calculus, they need to know fractions, decimals, and percents, converting between one to the other to the other. Number 3, students need to know the rules of exponents or indices, the laws of indices. You'll notice that sometimes I say it the way the Americans say it, and then I'll say it how the I'll say it how the Americans say it, and then I'll say it how the Nigerians say it. And the UK people, most of them will say it like the Nigerians as well, which leads me to another topic for our group to deliberate. We need to create a pipeline of distribution from the UK to Nigeria and Africa, because there's Amazon UK and also Cambridge, right? Cambridge has some of the resources that are tied to my work. So I would like us to have a pathway that makes it easy for us to basically get resources from the UK to Nigeria and Kenya, and then from Kenya and Nigeria, please distribute it to the rest of Africa. So again, what we are doing here by God's grace is Operation Redeem Africa as well. Redeem Africa Math Education. So it's Operation Redeem Mathematics, but it's also Redeem Mathematics in Africa. But on top of that is also Operation Increase the GDP. And the way we increase the GDP is we are going to make mathematics something. You know how people pay money to go and watch football? Let people be paying money to come and watch people do mathematics. Why not? Back in the day, people used to go and watch. The mathematicians were celebrities in the 17 and 1800s. Now, some people will be celebrities for no reason. Anyways, don't mind me. I'm joking. But the point, I'm not joking about mathematics in Africa. No, but my point is we need to find distribution channels. All of Africa should have access to the highest quality math resources in the world. That's necessary, because especially if you start talking about AI and data science, how will you do AI and data science if you don't have mathematicians? So please, on our team, let's think through how we want to do that. If we have to have our accounting calculus UK division acquire a bulk of Cambridge University textbooks and then ship it to Nigeria, nobody should be left out of this math excellence journey. Number 3 was exponents, radicals, and roots. In Nigeria and UK, you guys say swords, SURDS, swords. People need to know how to use swords and indices. Number 4, expressions, equations, and systems of equations. People need to know how to solve equations and systems of equations. Again, I'm showing you the roadmap. Then we'll now step back. Every tutor in this program who wants to guide children from counting to calculus can see the roadmap right now. Excuse me. Number 5, inequalities and absolute value. We build some on top of the equations. We need to know how to solve equations in order to do that. And I'll show us some of these books in a second. Number 6, graphing, functions, and transformations. Graphing is probably one of the most important topics in mathematics. Can you guys put in the chat, if you had to vote for the top 3 topics that you think are the most important in mathematics, what would those topics be? Can you please put it in the chat? What are the 3 of the most important topics in mathematics? Number 7, polynomials, very important. But number 7 is connected to number 3. If you don't know how to solve the rules of exponents, you won't know how to do polynomials and adding like terms properly, right? There's a connection there. If you don't know how to do exponents or indices, you won't know how to divide polynomials. See, I'm trying to teach us how to think of mathematics as a connected field. Every topic is connected to another topic. You always have to be going into every lesson you are teaching with the question, why does this matter for this child? Remember what I described to you about the background of a lot of students that come from America, the UK, Canada, Australia. A lot of students have a lot of resources. Their problem is not the resources. Their problem is, why am I learning this? Why does this even matter? When you are teaching, your mind always has to be going to, why does this matter for this child right now? And it applies to children in Africa and everywhere as well. Case in point, this man talking to you right now almost gave up on mathematics. I almost gave up on mathematics when I was 17 years old. And the reason was, almost gave up on doing advanced mathematics because I went to science class in secondary school, Federal Government College, Lagos, and I was the student body president, or head boy, they call it, or senior prefect. And one day, they were teaching us, one day we got into our final year, and you had to make a decision between further mathematics and economics. And I thought to myself, this further mathematics, I don't know the application of a lot of these things. And even if I knew the application, some of it was just didn't seem relevant to my life. So I went to the economics class. Yes, I went to economics class. I left further mathematics. And because I was also, by God's grace, I was one of the best in economics in my set. Chukwudi Agabu, Dr. Chukwudi Agabu beat me. I was number 2. Kai, till today I remember. Anyways, but the point is, when I was in that class, in economics class, it was time for economics. So I was going to go and call the economics teacher. The further mathematics teacher saw me outside the window while they were teaching further mathematics. And they said, is that Amos Taffa, the head boy, student body president? Amos, come here. What are you doing? Why are you not in this class in further mathematics? And I was, of course, because I want to do economics. They said, go and bring your notebooks. You are taking further mathematics. You are the head boy, basically. You need to be in this class. My people, that was how I entered further mathematics again. Even though I was not sure I wanted to do anymore, but I did it because I had to. I didn't have a choice at the time. Now, am I glad I did it? Yes, I'm glad. But the point I'm trying to make is, if somebody had told me why I was learning what I was learning, maybe I would have loved mathematics. There is no benefits. Let me repeat. There is no benefit in not telling students why they're learning what they're learning. There's actually no benefit. If there's a reason, we should tell them. We should tell them the history. Look at number 16 on this list, the human story. So when I wrote my first draft of the Tools for Mastering Mathematics book about 12, 13 years ago, I was already writing the history of mathematics, or at least trying to introduce people to the history of maths. Why does this matter? Because if you tell people why, some of them would love mathematics. So we have to tell the stories. But you might be on this call and say, Amos, I don't know the stories. That is okay. I will add it to our resource bank. There's a book called Journey Through Genius. I encourage everybody to read that book. Journey Through Genius by Dr. William Dunham. If someone can type it in the chat, just say Journey Through Genius by Dr. William. Let me just run down the list of math history, by the way. Quick commercial break, and then we'll finish the remaining list of topics. Everybody on this call, please, you should train your AI with the following books, meaning that you should upload some of the content that is available online for free into your AI and tell it, I'm teaching mathematics and I need my AI prompts to be for my math students to integrate math history so that whenever you create a lesson plan, your math history is embedded in the lesson plan. So here are the books everybody should consider. I'm just going to go down the list. I wasn't even thinking I was going to say all of them, but let me just say a few of them, and then I'll email them to you after the call. Number one, everybody needs Journey Through Genius. That is the book that changed my life. That is the book that made me realize that mathematicians are human beings. Mathematicians are human beings. You say, Amos, of course we know that, but that's not how we teach mathematics sometimes. We teach it as if some of these people were born, they just started doing math at the age of 2, they started publishing at the age of 3, and now we're learning mathematics, and they were just born like that. That's not true. If you look at number 10 on this list, logarithms, the guy who came up with it was not a professional mathematician at the level that you know many mathematicians. He was an amateur. Part of this training is about changing mindsets. Because if we're going to change the world, we have to change mindsets. And that is part of why we're even doing the tutor training, is that we want to train as many people as possible. And God willing, we're going to do some of the trainings in person, in Nairobi, in Johannesburg, in Abuja, in Accra, right? In Harare, if they invite me, right? We'll, by God's grace, or if they invite our team, right? And some of you will end up doing the trainings. That's the other thing you have to also please let me know. If you want to be trained to the level where you are training other people in your community, please let me know. There's opportunities for everybody to use their skill sets to help us accomplish our goals, God willing. So we have to teach math history. Journey Through Genius by Dr. William Dunham, Dunham. Dr. William Dunham. Number 2, we have to read Peak by Dr. Anders Ericsson. And the reason why we have to read Peak, P-E-A-K, by Dr. Anders, if you put the name, even if you just say the name and the first name, many of these systems will catch who I'm talking about. The reason why we have to read Peak is because it teaches you how to help students learn how to master mathematics and how to master any skill, but especially mathematics. Number 3, we have to read the book called The Journey, what's it called now? A Tour of the Calculus by Dr. David Berlinski. A Tour of the Calculus by Dr. David Berlinski. Number 4, Newton's Gifts. Newton's Gifts by Dr. David Berlinski. Why are we talking of Newton and calculus all the time? Because Isaac Newton is one of the greatest mathematicians to ever live. And it's good to understand some of how he was thinking through things so we can inspire our students to be the best in the world. What I want is the best AI researchers, the best data scientists, the best physicists, and the best mathematicians to start coming from everywhere in the world, including my village, including Lagos, Nigeria, everywhere. I can keep going on and on with the list. Number 5, Men of Mathematics by E.T. Bell. Men of Mathematics by E.T. Bell. Now, if you study the history of mathematics, you realize that there's a lot of men, right, and not as many women. And part of it is that women were not given the opportunity to start going to university in many countries until later. So a lot of the research you'll see will come from, the men of mathematics, or as far as the foundations of the earlier modern history, math history. The greatest mathematicians, almost every one of them lived between 1476 to 1776. Almost every one of them. So in my math history, I teach math history into 4 categories. Sorry, our time is almost up and time for questions. Sorry, let me land. There's 4 categories of math history for us. There's ancient history from Abraham to the fall of Rome, so 2024 BC to 476 AD. That's the first category of math history that I want us to teach. Again, if you want to teach math history for us, please let me know. Everybody, just keep sharing, and maybe we'll make a form, please. Team, let's make a form and begin to see what people's skill sets are and how they want to leverage those skill sets. Because our goal is to transform education on the continent of Africa using math as a catalyst. So that's ancient history. Then I teach Middle Ages, which is 476 AD to 1476 AD, 1,000 years. So we go from about 2,500 years to 1,000 years. And then from 1476 AD to 1776 AD, so that's another 300 years, that happened to give us the greatest number of mathematicians that I can count. Newton, Euler, Gauss was born right after that 1776. I can go on and on. Bernoulli. There's so many Bernoullis. Anyways, and then 1776 to the present. That's modern math history. Imagine our students being able to explain the 4 time periods of math history and the people that made the impact in math history. How cool would this be, my people? And when you tell them a topic, they can tell you who came up with the topic and why the topic matters. How cool would that be? That is the standard that we want to go for. I'll tell you a funny story in math history, and then I'll wrap up with the remaining topics here. And we're going to go through all these topics, by the way. Everybody on this call, we're going to go through all these topics. That's what we'll do in our next class, is that we'll dissect like maybe 2 of them, and then another 2. So maybe by the matter of 8 weeks, we should finish all these topics. But so it's a little bit accelerated, but I'm giving you access to all the books and all the videos and all the resources, so you can always review. And if you want us to slow down, that's fine. There's no rush, because the goal at the end of the day is this is a movement, and a movement takes time. But by God's grace, a year from now, for sure, we should have all of these topics down. And you can start teaching after like 4 weeks. You should be able to start teaching some of these topics. We're going to have our tutors specialize. So we'll have a tutor who specializes in fractions, decimals, and percent. And we'll have a whole division. So imagine the Institute of Counting to Calculus for fractions, decimals, and percent. Imagine that. That's all you people will be doing in that institute. Does that make sense? So what we are doing is we're almost starting a university for mathematics, and we're subdividing into departments. But all the departments are talking to one another. So by God's grace, we're going to be the world's leading mathematics institute. That's one of our goals. We're not playing with anybody. We're going to work hard, right? Anybody who joins this call, I want you to join the Institute for Mathematics Excellence, Global Mathematics Excellence, meaning that we have people who are experts in matrices, experts in linear algebra, but we're all coming together. And so when we go to Cambridge, which we'll try to do once a year, God willing, maybe eventually to be more often, we're writing a letter to British Airways. We probably need to write a letter to other airways. But my goal is, imagine we can meet regularly at Cambridge and discuss how is it going? How can we keep helping more children master mathematics? And what is the goal of all of this at the end of the day? 1 billion students. 1 billion students doing calculus for fun. That's the goal. So we have a long way to go to keep growing the team and the effort. But we really have to help children love mathematics. We have to. And this is what we're trying to do. So the funny story in math history I was going to tell you is there was a time when, as I said, women were not in academia. And so there was a woman who was writing letters to a famous mathematician. If you guys, there's a YouTube channel called Newsthink, News, Newsthink is one word. Newsthink has several videos on the history of mathematicians, such as the history of Isaac Newton, the history of Leonhard Euler, the history of Carl Friedrich Gauss. You guys should please check it out. It's called Newsthink, one word. But they tell the story of this, and I think Gauss was the mathematician she was writing a letter to. But at this time, everybody, of course, assumed that all the people writing all this mathematics were men, because women were not publishing yet in these academic institutions. So she wrote the letters under the name Monsieur Leblanc. Monsieur Leblanc. And people were thinking, Monsieur Leblanc is really good in maths, really good at, their papers are fascinating. And then one day, I think Gauss found out it was actually a woman that was writing under the name Monsieur Leblanc. Gauss gave her an opportunity, of course, like he continued working with her. He didn't stop. Like he kept writing, they kept working on those papers or whatever they were looking at. But it was just interesting. That was what people had to do back then. This same Gauss, I'm just telling you one example of what people did to try and still write. Now, I'm not saying you should go and change your name, but do you know that there are some people that use a pen name, right? So maybe some people have a mathematician's name. That's a whole debate of ethics we can have later on in terms of this situation of they were writing under another name. But the point is, there was another mathematician, this same Gauss, who was trying to learn mathematics badly. So he bought a candle to learn mathematics from Leonhard Euler's books. My people, where is that kind of desperation for mathematics from our students? How many students are willing to spend their money to buy candles, to buy the book that will help them become very good in mathematics? Unfortunately, not many are, because we have not inspired them to. Let's land with our topics. Number 8, rational expressions. Our students need to know rational expressions, but that means they need to know polynomials before they do rational expressions. Number 9, they need to know quadratic functions. But they also need to know polynomials to do quadratic functions well. Number 10, they need to know logarithms and exponential functions. Then matrices and linear algebra. How many of you on this call know that when you are using AI, do you know that it's linear algebra statistics happening in the background? I don't know how many of you knew that. Everything AI is linear algebra statistics, probability, and calculus. A lot of it is built on that. There's a whole book called The Mathematics of Machine Learning, and we're going to have that book as the end. We're going to study that at the end. Number 12, sequences, series, and integrated topics. That sequences and series. What is another name of somebody that made an impact? Carl Friedrich Gauss. Same guy. He's in that category. Same guy. He's in the linear algebra category. Carl Friedrich Gauss again. Number 13, statistics and probability. That's where Blaise Pascal comes in. He's the one who wrote the book Ponces, a book on Christian apologetics and Christian apologetics. Number 14, geometry. That's a big category, but we have Euclid's geometry that you can read, and we have resources for that. And then number 15, trigonometry. This is the list, and I will encourage you to check out this resource. And it breaks it down and tells you why does it matter. Please, before you teach a topic to a student, look at why does it matter, and then read it, and then kind of bring it up as one of the slides and tell the child why does it matter. You are welcome to use any of these resources for your teaching. At the very end of this list, I provide you with, so our website is countingtocalculus.org. My email is amos@countingtocalculus.org. Today is the day to start learning. Today is the day to start helping people to make an impact. Let me go back here to the list. Look at this list that has been compiled for us. Tools for Mastering Mathematics, A Mathematician's Lament, A Mathematician's Apology, Mathematics for Human Flourishing. We'll be inviting Dr. Francis Su. I've already sent him a letter, an email, to come. He was the president of the Mathematical Association of America. And then we have these other books that you have access to. There's a website called OpenStax. You can see the spelling there. Please go to that website, OpenStax, and you can download their mathematics books for free. Rice University has made it available for free. So please feel free to check it out. One of the best books on the history of on algebra in the world is called Elements of Algebra. It was written around 1770 by Leonhard Euler, one of the greatest mathematicians of all time. And it was written in a way that you can actually understand. So everyone on the call, welcome to the math journey that will help many people to launch into calculus with confidence. Lastly, this is an example of a textbook in the folder. And what you will notice with all the textbooks I recommend is that you get examples, definitions, you have examples, you have definitions. This is the first book in the series, by the way. So please, everyone should try and just browse through the first book in the series, because this is what our students in America are using in my company. And I want you to be comfortable navigating the textbook. And then at the end of each chapter, you can see that there's exercises. Please, let me recap one thing. You can go to your AI tool. You can upload the free resources. A lot of these are free resources. You can start training the AI tool, and we can talk about this next week. Next week, I want to do a quick AI discussion, but let me get back to you on the time. What I want to do, actually, sorry, I apologize. In 2 weeks, I apologize. In 2 weeks, I want to reconvene, but in between now and 2 weeks, let's go back and forth, ask questions, anything you have questions on. And what I want to do is I want to show you how to use technology like Google Drive, Google Slides, Google Docs, like just how to build lesson plans. Because imagine if there's 100 of us doing this. My people, by God's grace, we will literally, if you have 100 people doing this, you could probably help 1 million people comfortably. Because everyone should learn how to leverage the tools. And I'm not saying students don't need teachers and so on and so forth. No, I'm one of those people that says we need more teachers. We actually need more teachers. And we need to start paying the teachers like we pay doctors. Yeah, let me repeat what I just said for the people at the back. In my education vision, we have to pay teachers more than we pay doctors. And I'm not apologizing for what I say. We need to pay doctors well, don't get me wrong. And I appreciate doctors and my friends are doctors. Yes, but here's the mistake we're making. A doctor can do a procedure and help fix somebody's heart on a Monday morning. A teacher can have 100 students that they are supposed to work with, and they can make an impact on their heart, metaphorically, either for good or for bad. Why don't we ensure the teacher can pay their bills so they're not thinking about their bills when there's 100 students in front of them? My people, a revolution is here, is at hand. where teachers are given the opportunity, where tutors are given the opportunity to help as many people as they can, and they are paid well for it, because we don't have to sacrifice impact for feasibility. So I'm going to let you in on the secret, back to what I said in the beginning. We want to start the world's leading STEM academy fully online with community centers that are run by well-trained tutors. And we want to ensure that every one of the teachers connected to that academy is rewarded in such a way that they will not have to debate choosing between teaching and another job based on salary. No. And here's why. Because our schools now need to actually be producing revenue by the students' efforts. So what I mean by that is, why can't schools train their students to start building AI applications in such a way that those AI applications are sold for a certain price point, so that those students are paying their school fees with their own hands, and those school fees are able to support the teachers that are teaching those students? We have to change our mindset on education and finance. This idea of, oh, your reward is in heaven. Yes, by God's grace, yeah, we can talk about that if we want, but no, 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 no. Let me have high-speed internet and electricity. It is not a crime. So if you are a teacher, you should be rewarded well for your work. And school owners, please, I understand the difficulty. I've tried to run schools. It is hard. And that's why I'm saying we now need to start teaching business and education and technology at the same time. That's how we scale this thing up, and everybody is able to provide for their communities. And then we build centers in every community as much as we can. And then those centers become think of it like the Romans road, because out of those centers, we now start giving people opportunities to share about how their lives have been transformed, and how my life has been transformed ultimately by the greatest mathematician and the one who created mathematics, which is God, and of course, what he has done through Jesus Christ. That is part of what I want to see happen, but it starts with level one. Everybody needs to understand the role education will play. Every center needs to have these centers, and then every center needs to start providing healthcare, education, support, hope in communities where people might not have hope. We need to give them hope, and it starts today with Counting to Calculus for Africa. Thank you so much. I will stop now and take a couple of questions, and we'll be done. Sorry, that was a lot. A team member, if anyone wants to moderate a quick Q&A for like 5 minutes, we can do that. Let me stop the recording. And those in the chat, feel free to feel free to put your question in the chat as well. But we'll wrap up here in about 5 minutes. Just looking in the chat to see if there's any questions. I'm just going to list some of the books. A Tour of the Calculus. And then please, Sunday, remind me, we need to work on the logistics. By God's grace, we'll be starting a bookstore chain for in Abuja. And what I want to do is, the bookstore chain is like, I want it to be a place that people can go to access the books that we ship from the UK and the US. And then from Abuja, I would love one in Nairobi, please, as soon as possible. And then, as I said, I don't know as much of what's going on in many other parts of Africa, but I would like a bookstore in every major city that is basically carrying our books and giving it, people can get the books there. And then if you guys write books, by the way, which remind me to tell you all how to publish books online. If you want to publish books, how many of you know that it is now easy to publish books? How many of you know that if you have a book, let me just give you an example. If you want to publish a book on addition strategies and you want to just write 20 pages of addition problems, do you know that you can create a book of just addition problems? You can upload it in your Claude, and Claude will actually format it for Amazon for you, and Amazon will publish it for you, and then people can start ordering it from Amazon. How many of you, I don't know if you guys knew that. This is something I just found out recently. I started using it, and then my friend found out about it yesterday, and he cannot believe it. The reason why I'm bringing this up to all of you is when I say we need to change the financial situation of educators around Africa and around the world, these are some of the ways we change it. We increase ways for them to leverage their assets, right? So everybody on this call, if you want to write and you want to publish, I will help you and we can help you publish. You can publish your own writings, right? And if your writings are relevant to what we are doing, then let's bring it to the bookstore. And I know there's an author on this call already. I want him to know that we can now use Claude to fine tune his book. So yes, it's funny. I was thinking of him right when he texted. Yes, we are going to. Well, I'm going to answer your question, but yes, let's publish. Remember the book we're working on, sir. Let's publish that again using some of these tools. In 2 weeks, please remind me to spend 20 minutes teaching everybody how to publish their own books. Does that make sense? Now, how do we blend math and English studies? I love that question. Every math teacher that is teaching math history should please consider blending. Let me go back to my slide. So I'm going to answer this question and then maybe one other question. Let me go back to my slide. Sorry. The answer to the question of how do we blend math and English, this has officially become a committee. And I'm sorry, our committees are not just going to be talking. They have to be doing something, right? So please, Mr. Lucky, let's get the committee started. And the committee is on, we need to write a math, let me pull it up here. You guys see this Tools for Mastery Mathematics book, the last section of Tools for Mastery Mathematics, right at the very end. Do you guys see the history of math people in mathematics, science, and philosophy and study skills? Please, can we write a series of short books that tell the story of some of these people that classrooms around the world can use? Are you guys seeing my thinking? Is that what I'm saying is, why don't we have English teachers help us? English teachers, please come. Let's talk. Help us and let's write and publish a book on Isaac Newton from our cohorts. Let's write a book on Blaise Pascal. Let's write a book on Pythagoras. And then in the classrooms across Africa, somebody has finished their chapter. They're just sitting down waiting for the teacher to tell them what to do next. Let them take the book that we wrote on Pythagoras and let them read it. And it has reading comprehension questions. Why did Pythagoras do what he did? Where did Pythagoras live? So now we are bringing English and maths together. But wait. Science teachers, come, please, come. All the science teachers, you are teaching Newton's law of gravity, Newton's laws. Why are we not talking together with the further math teacher and the math teacher? Why aren't we all sitting down together? Are you guys seeing where our movement is a little different, right? Or this goal, I call it a movement, but this goal of this thing we're doing, right, to try and make mathematics more available to everybody, we have to tell stories. So English teachers, we need you. Science teachers, we need you to tell us how the topics you are teaching are connected to the mathematics we are teaching as well. My prayer is that this becomes normalized in the next 5 to 10 years. I know I'm being too optimistic. Why would we be teaching a child something in math class that has applications in science and we're not teaching them that science topic? Case in point, Boyle's law, Charles' law. Does anybody on this call know Boyle's law or Charles' law? Does anyone know Charles' law? Just curious. Please put it in the chat. Why are we teaching students inverse and direct variation, but we are not teaching them about Boyle's law? And do you know that Robert Boyle, the same Boyle, Boyle, that Boyle was a scientist in the UK. Do you know that he also lived around the time of Isaac Newton? And there was some collaboration that was happening around that time. How many of our students know the impact and the influence and the connections of all these scientists to one another? Some days I wonder, what would Isaac Newton do if he had the internet? Wow! Just think about that. What would Isaac Newton have done if he had the internet? Kai! Hey! Can you imagine? Isaac Newton would have changed the world, my people, even more. So here's my question. Why can't all educators collaborate and increase opportunities and access and publish their writings and publish their books, which again, I've said, we're willing to help you. And guess what? If you publish on Amazon, it can be shipped from the UK to you easier, right? Because they can send it to you from the UK. So we need as many of you who want to be authors or who are authors, who want to write about mathematics and different types of math workbooks, we need you to please start polishing your notes and start getting ready. Let's start publishing it next month. Guys, this is the era of execution. There's no time to waste. Everybody, if you have a vision to write, let's get you going. So we need to have a writing workshop, and I'll invite some other people to speak during that workshop. So we need to teach the history and English there. So English, History teachers, come. History teachers, you too, please. We need people that know history to tell the history of the time period. And then we need English teachers to help us write the books. And then we need science teachers to tell us the applications. And then we need mathematics teachers. Are you guys seeing that basically we have ourselves a little school that has connections with one goal? The goal is very simple. The world's leading classical STEM academy with a biblical framework, period, in the next 5 years, God willing. Why do we want to do that? Because we want to then scale that up into every community so that even if you live in a community where there is no school, you have access to this life academies, we'll call it for now. You have an access to life academy. We have 15 million children in Nigeria, 15 million children who don't have access to education. We are going to solve that by God's grace. The way we solve that is that we get these tools and resources built, and we build centers all across Nigeria and all across Africa and all across Southeast Asia, where we have connections to Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, and Singapore partly because we just have one of our teachers there, and then South America and England. Doesn't matter, everywhere. But I'm starting from, let's saturate the African market because there are over 50 million children, probably if you count the whole continent, who are not getting quality education. Please, let's solve that in the next 5-10 years, God willing. Thank you. So that's how we all come together to solve it. Any other questions before we wrap up? I'm sorry, that was a long-winded answer. Yes, P1, V1 is equal to P2, V. Well, so that's Boyle's law, yes. So somebody says, a question, is it possible for those of us interested in academic mathematics to take a leap from BSc in maths to PhD without mathematics? You have brought so writers, again, please get ready. We're going to have a meeting to write books. Let me answer this question. And I know some of you, if you have to leave, I completely understand. But let me just answer this question because it's very important. I'm going to tell you another story. And that story, let me share my screen and I'll share one story. Let me end with this story if it's okay, just so that some of you have to run. Our team is going to work with Starlink to please provide. We need to come up with a strategy for Starlink that gets everybody what they need. Oh, sorry, my screen is still sharing. Perfect. Okay, so let's go back to resource 1. So I need everybody who's a part of the Tutor network to have access to Starlink and also constant electricity. So please, we need a subcommittee. Sunday is on that committee. We need infrastructure. I'll be writing a letter to Dell Computers in the US here. I live not far from their headquarters. So Dell Computers, we need headphones, we need webcams, we need Starlink, and we need electricity for you. So tell us what the electricity provider in your country is. Tell us who the internet providers are. What we need to do is we need to explain to them we are trying to provide quality education for everyone around the world, but we need to get a kit for every one of our tutors. Let me end with a story for you guys. If you look on this list, there's a name here that says Bertrand Russell on the close to the top. He was a logician in the early 1900s. Bertrand Russell lived around the time with another mathematician called G.H. Hardy. Remember when I told you there's a book called A Mathematician's Lament? Well, there's another one called A Mathematician's Apology. That book, A Mathematician's Apology, if you have not read it, run after this call, please. Run and find it and just download it. It's free online. A Mathematician's Apology. That guy was serious. G.H. Hardy. He was a Cambridge University mathematician. By the way, Bertrand Russell was also connected to Cambridge University. By the way, Isaac Newton was also at Cambridge University. James Clerk Maxwell was at Cambridge University. J.J. Thomson was at Cambridge University. Are you guys seeing why Amos keeps talking about Cambridge? Because that was part of the core place that gave a lot of these ideas in math and physics. And Amos wants us to just spend some time there and Oxford, Cambridge, and then we'll go around different parts of Europe from year to year, God willing. So this is, again, the goal is to introduce us to places where the action happened, right? And Egypt, we have to go to Egypt, of course, too, where we have the library in Alexandria. Okay, so here's what's interesting. Do you know that G.H. Hardy got a letter from somebody in India that said, basically, give me a chance to study at Cambridge. And you might wonder, did this person have a bachelor's degree in maths? Not at all. This person was not very good at maths. But his letter came with some notebooks, which leads me to another reason why you need to publish. Because by the time you write a letter to a PhD professor and tell them, look at what I've been working on with the Counting to Calculus Tutor cohort. Look at the papers I've published. Look at my work in math education. Would you give me a chance to get a PhD at your university? That is similar to what this person did. Do you know that this person was given the opportunity to come to Cambridge? Partly because G.H. Hardy saw that this person's mathematics was fascinating. Do you know that the man went to Cambridge? He died young. Unfortunately, he only lived to only like 31. But that man is now in the books for the top 20 mathematicians of all time, in many books. His name was Srinivasa Ramanujan. Srinivasa Ramanujan. Why am I telling you guys this story? Because by God's grace, I think we're going to start hearing stories like this. I attended this counting to calculus thing. I started doing more mathematics. I started publishing. And then I wrote a letter to this professor at this university. And they were fascinated by my work. And they invited me to get a PhD with them. And I don't even have a bachelor's degree in math. My people, the greatest mathematician, one of the greatest mathematicians alive today is in California. His name is Terence Tao. Dr. Terence Tao got his PhD at the age of 20. And then he became a full professor at the age of 24. Terence Tao was fascinating. I mean, I believe it was 20 and then 24, or yeah, it was around the age of 20, 24. He became a full professor, and now he's one of the best mathematicians. He's won the highest math award called the Fields Medal. I bring it up because Terence Tao said something very recently. He said anybody can now start working on difficult math problems and making a difference. Guys, I don't think people paid attention to what he said. I did. What he's basically saying is that some of your students, not only are you guys going to be very good at maths and so on, but some of your students, and some of you are very good at maths. So please, I will not even challenge some of you here. I'll be honest. Some of you, I don't know that I want to go back to back with you in a 1 hour exam. But some of your students, guess what will happen to them by God's grace? The world will be looking for them. So some of your students will get a PhD in UCLA and MIT and Princeton and Harvard and Yale and Columbia and Cambridge and Oxford. And my hope is that your students will be a light in wherever they find themselves. That means that we need to start introducing our students to some of the most difficult problems in mathematics, because you never know. They might just be able to use the tools available to them to solve those problems. And when they solve those problems, I guarantee you they will not pay $1 for getting their PhD in mathematics, because PhDs in mathematics in most universities are fully funded. Let's open that door for as many people as possible. Thank you so much. Okay, that was a lot. Sorry, I was taking my time and answering. But my people who are seeking to be mathematicians, I'm going to end with one slide. Let's see if I have resource 3. Okay, yeah, that's it. I'm going to end with this slide. Please take some time and look over this document, because if you're going to be accounting to calculus tutor, you should be able to help your students see the connection from arithmetic to the end of pre-calculus or the beginning of calculus. That's where this document ends. Please go to OpenStax and download the math books. They are free. They're from Rice University, which is one of the best universities in the world as well. I will end there. Is there any last question before we wrap up? In general, we'll generally be done in about an hour. Is there any last questions before we wrap up? So thank you, everyone. I want to leave you with a word of encouragement. I understand that life is difficult for people around the world in many situations. Some people are afraid they're going to lose their jobs. People are concerned about what AI is going to do. People in Africa are about to have elections. I mean, in Nigeria, are about to have elections. In different parts of the continent, there's different challenges. There's different challenges around the world. Every country, I joke and say there's no perfect country except Singapore. I mean, sorry, except Switzerland. Not Singapore is exceptional. But I mean, I joke and say there's no perfect country except Switzerland. And you guys might get why. Because my favorite mathematician was from Switzerland, and they make a lot of chocolate there. They have a lot of chocolate. But the point is, there's no perfect country, in all honesty. There's none. However, can we empower people to have hope, to use the skills and the tools God has given them to make an impact wherever they find themselves? I want to leave you with that message. Yes, we're here to talk about mathematics, but there's a bigger vision. And the vision is to give you opportunities to shine in the tools God has given you, while you give other people opportunities to shine in the tools God has given them. We're living in interesting times. But mathematics is not going anywhere. So we need people to be good at mathematics. But we don't just focus on helping them be good at math and stop there. We need to think bigger and ask, how can I inspire you to live a life that makes sense? That is ultimately what Amos is trying to do. And he's using mathematics as a tool to do that. I want people to live lives that make sense. And mathematics just shows the beauty of the world God has made. And it's a tool. And when you see a mathematician in action, it's like a painter painting, it's like a musician composing, shy, beautiful. So I'll leave you today with a link to probably the best music video that you will hear in a very long time. So let me leave you with the link. I'm so sorry I went long with my conclusion, but I want to leave you with this link because when I see this link, it shows me what I want to do for mathematics education. This is probably the best, one of the best musical performances ever done. And it was done in England. So by God's grace, maybe we'll have to do some maybe go to a composer, like what do you call it, a music place too in our time at Cambridge and listen to some classical music. So please take the link I just gave and think about yourself and the gifts God has given you and think, how can I be like that man that is doing that conducting in that music? You will see what I mean when you watch. How can I shine in that which God has given me, just like he is shining in what God has given him? And I'll post the link also on YouTube. The name of the composer is Christopher Tin, Tin. That's the name of the composer, Christopher Tin. So please check it out. Take care, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a blessed day. I see some questions that came in the chat. I'm so sorry, but I'll answer them later. A healthy green lifestyle. We'll talk. That's a good question, but we'll talk more on that one if you don't mind on the next one. Take care, everyone. God bless. Inkem, you can feel free to end the meeting for us. Thank you.